You stood in solidarity against oppression, against a lawless secret police, against a cruel and wicked system that impoverished your cities and your souls. And you won. Poland prevailed. Poland will always prevail.
Well, that was the welcome President Trump received yesterday in Poland, but the G20 summit in Hamburg has been quite a different scene, and though President Trump is not the main target of protesters, the two scenes, in a way, illustrate the growing debate in the continent over the American leader. But Fraser Nelson, a columnist for the Daily Telegraph, says that divide may be overblown, writing, quote, "The stage is being set for a clash between progressive European values and American cold-heartedness. But there are two problems with the general idea. The first is that many EU leaders are coming around to Mr. Trump's way of thinking, and the other is that in many areas, European popular opinion is firmly on his side." Fraser Nelson joins us now from London, and thank you for staying up with us to explain to us why you think there's actually more support in Europe for President Trump than maybe perhaps people are willing to let on.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump is always portrayed as this sort of, crazy guy with these out there views on immigration, on border security, on trade. And it's certainly true that a lot of European leaders are kind of traumatized by what they hear coming out of the White House. But for the public, it's a very different opinion. There's a lot more sympathy. I mean, for example, take on immigration. Now, the kind of the travel ban of the Trump administration is portrayed as one of the sort of cruelest things Donald Trump has done to ban immigration from 6 Muslim-majority nations. But when an opinion poll was taken of 10,000 Europeans, it found that in a majority in so many countries, Germany, France, Austria, Greece, would actually ban all Muslim immigration, regardless of what country it came from. So there is so much more sympathy for Trump ideas than you would guess from listening to the debate amongst the European political elite.
I imagine that when it comes to immigration, trade, and the economy, that would be true. Do you think they're maybe further apart, perhaps on environmental issues or climate change, and maybe even just style? There's an unpredictability about President Trump that might just make some people in Europe a little bit nervous, but maybe people on the ground are thinking, this actually isn't a bad idea to try to do something a different way.
Well, certainly, yes. I mean, look, when Donald Trump says that globalism has overreached, it's time to dial it back, he's got a lot of people in Europe who agree with him. But the man himself, his style, his debates, his tweeting, that does put a lot of people off. His personal approval ratings are pretty low in Europe, so he's not as if he's a kind of right-wing Obama who's going to get hundreds of thousands of people coming cheering him on. He did in Poland. He struggled to repeat that trick in Germany or France or much of Western Europe. So there's no doubt that he's a rather unconvincing ambassador of American values. But his general idea is one that's shared by lots of politicians in Europe, especially when it comes to dealing with the fallout of globalization in a way better than the various G20 summits have been able to do so far.
Here in the United States, we have something called flyover states. These are states that are not on the coast, where people, in large part, the majorities did vote for President Trump. And I imagine sort of in Europe, you have places like in Poland or Hungary or maybe even Czech or Romania, where they feel kind of the same way, the flyover nations that are being forgotten about, and they're perhaps more supportive of President Trump that you might get in some of the bigger nations, at least economically, like Germany and France.
Well, sure, but let's remember that in France recently, a third of the country voted for Marine Le Pen. Now, that's a high watermark for the Front National. In Britain, we've had Brexit was voted through last year, again through concern that globalization has overreached. So there are significant numbers of people in all of these countries. They tend not to be the ones who protest outside G20 meetings. That's not quite their style. Right. But the kind of coalition that brought Donald Trump to power in America certainly can be seen all over Europe, mainly behind a lot of the populist movements, whose popularity is doing really well right now, right across the continent.
All right, Fraser Nelson, it's good to know that you're over there, and we'll be watching for more of your columns. Thank you so much.